What if a single spark in Tehran ignites the world? Iran's recent warning could push uranium enrichment to 90% purity if attacked again, a threshold perilously close to weapons grade. Engulfed in decades of mistrust and sanctions, Tehran's nuclear program stands at a crossroads. While leaders in the United States and Israel debate the cost of intervention, civilians brace for the fallout. That fallout is no longer theoretical and no longer distant. It is already reshaping lives from Beirut to the Strait of Hormuz. Today we unpack the latest developments in a crisis that could reset the rules of global engagement. Iran's nuclear warning came from the Parliament Commission's spokesperson, Ebrahim Rezaiei, who told the world, one of Iran's options in the event of another attack could be 90% enrichment. He posted the stark message on the platform X, a clear signal that should diplomacy collapse, Tehran may surge its uranium to a purity level just shy of weapons grade. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu underscored the enduring threat, declaring it's not over because there's still nuclear material, enriched uranium, that has to be taken out of Iran. In a stark warning, he added, there are still enrichment sites that have to be dismantled. Asked how removal should proceed, he said simply, you go in and you take it out. This confrontation over enriched uranium follows Iran's refusal to deliver more than 400 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60%, a critical step toward advanced military capabilities. Global monitors note that even a modest increase in enrichment sharpens the crisis. A single delivery of enriched gas could shorten the path to a nuclear device. Whether Tehran intends to cross that line hinges on diplomatic offers and security guarantees. Yet as political gridlock deepens, the risk grows that confrontation will spiral into open conflict with dire consequences. Iran has long insisted its nuclear activities are purely civilian. Yet senior U.S. officials remember former President Donald Trump's stated goal to prevent any Iranian nuclear weapon. Today, that same objective collides with Tehran's resolve to preserve its atomic program. As nations weigh their next move, the world watches aware that a nuclear spark could ignite broader war. In southern Lebanon, the impact of this standoff is painfully clear. The Israeli military issued forced evacuation orders for residents in Arzoon, Deir Deba, Al-Bazoria, and Al-Hosh, demanding civilians move at least 1,000 meters to open areas. The orders came amid accusations that Hezbollah violated a U.S.-mediated ceasefire and jeopardized fragile calm. International law experts warn that such blanket orders often lack clarity and fail to protect civilian life. More than 1 million people have already been uprooted since hostilities resumed in March. In a single strike on Far Dunin, 6 civilians were killed and 7 others were wounded. On the same night, Israeli forces detonated several homes in Bint Jubail, leaving families homeless and terrified. Humanitarian agencies cite mounting casualties, with at least 2,869 recorded deaths since March 2, including many women and children. Hospitals struggle under the strain of wounded civilians and dwindling supplies. Daily life teeters on the brink as displaced families seek shelter in schools and makeshift camps. The exodus underscores the heavy price paid by innocents caught between 2 powerful adversaries. Aid convoys face access restrictions and underfunding, leaving many without basic essentials. Some describe the scene as a slow-motion disaster, where children carry blankets instead of backpacks, and elders cling to memories of homes now reduced to rubble. Correspondence between global players now hinges on the Strait of Hormuz. Only a handful of ships navigate this vital corridor, where some remain anchored under tight surveillance. Iran's counterstrike in the Gulf followed U.S. and Israeli raids, fueling a stalemate that President Trump described as on massive life support, rejecting Tehran's 14-point peace proposal as totally unacceptable. He told supporters that the ceasefire had less than a 1% chance of surviving. His blunt assessment echoes through diplomatic channels and signals a potential return to large-scale hostilities. Back in Tehran, Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf warned that our armed forces are ready to deliver a well-deserved response to any aggression. Such proclamations further harden positions and cast doubt on reviving negotiations. Analysts caution that without tangible concessions from Washington and Tehran, the fragile truce could fracture at any moment. Oil prices already react to the rhetoric, sending shockwaves through markets. Meanwhile, the global community watches as guarantees of security undergo tests. Rescue ships wait idle and insurance rates skyrocket. The prospect of renewed conflict in the Strait poses a risk not just to energy supplies but to maritime trade itself. Satellite photos taken by providers show dozens of tankers idling perilously close to Iran's ports. Each a reminder that the Strait has become a strategic choke point under dual blockades. Only essential passage is permitted while global pressure mounts for security assurances. Without a credible diplomatic breakthrough, these ships will remain hostages of this standoff. As talks falter in capitals around the world, both Iran and Israel rally support from key allies. In Washington, diplomats scramble to revive discussions. Parliamentary sessions in Tehran prepare to debate the enrichment option. Prime Minister Netanyahu remains unwavering, insisting on the removal of all enriched uranium before any ceasefire can hold. It's not over until the threat is eliminated. On the opposite flank, Mohammad Ghalibaf stands ready to counter any aggression. Our armed forces are ready to deliver a well-deserved response. His stance underscores the military overtones shaping these diplomatic impasses. Against this tense backdrop, sanctions threaten to deepen Iran's isolation. Israeli measures aim to starve Hezbollah of resupply. However, experts warn that punitive steps alone cannot bridge the trust deficit between these adversaries. As Jerusalem and Tehran refuse to yield to compromise, the fragile ceasefire remains tethered to hope. For now, no true resolution emerges. Instead, the conflict pauses at the edge of escalation, awaiting its next trigger. Earlier this month, the U.S. tabled a 14-point memorandum to reopen the Strait and lay groundwork for broader talks. Tehran's reply demanded immediate sanction relief, an end to naval blockades, and guarantees against fresh attacks. It called on Israel to halt operations in Lebanon. Yet Jerusalem and Washington deemed that response unacceptable, deepening the impasse. From Tehran to Beirut and beyond, these unfolding events remind us that regional stability hangs by the thinnest of threads. A promise of peace remains elusive, while the specter of nuclear escalation and mass displacement looms larger than ever. Yet in every corridor of power and every refugee camp, we see the urgency for dialogue and restraint. If one question stands above all, it is this: what cost is the world willing to bear to keep the peace alive? As this crisis evolves, stay with us for timely updates and in-depth analysis of the decisions that will define our collective future. Subscribe for ongoing coverage of Middle East developments.